Hey, time for a new video. Script again, get used to it. Kept practicing feminizing my voice. Bought this amazing wig and finally feel good about wearing men's clothes again. As long as I can look female while wearing men's clothes, I notice I kinda like it. So that's pretty good. Yeah, men's blazer, men's shirt, men's pants too, although I guess you can't see them from over there. I actually don't have a model viewer thing on my camera, so I have a little bit of a difficult time propping it up and can't really move around too much when making videos, but anyhow. So I'm shocking you a little bit with my otherwise kind of hidden androgyny today. And yeah, this is actually what I used to wear when I was a trans guy in the past, so... Well, except from boobs, obviously. And I also tried to hide my curves a lot. But now I really like being curvy. In men's clothes, in women's clothes, and naked. I just love being curvy. So I'm gonna stick to my high fake femme voice for today in this video and the next one. So if you want a reminder of what I actually sound like before I go any further, here's what my actual default voice sounds like. It makes me slightly dysphoric nowadays though, so that's all I'm gonna give you of this deep ass rumble. So there's that. However, this isn't gonna be a random update type of video, so it's gonna be enough of an update for now. And let's get down to business. I'm gonna have to split this video into two, or this project thing into two videos, because I'm still not a verified YouTuber, so I still have a 15-minute limit sort of thing going on. And this text that I kind of spent the entire night writing, when recording it on sound file, it became just over 20 minutes. So instead of cutting it down like a reasonable person, I'm just gonna make it into two videos instead. So get prepared for that. So this is the first part. And the split is probably not gonna be super neat, but I'll try not to massacre it. So let's get started. I want to talk about reverse dysphoria among detransitioners. Why? Because I believe that both the general trans community and gender clinics believe and perpetuate about it is harmful, incorrect, and not exactly based on actual detransition people's own experiences. I personally have reverse dysphoria myself, but even I run into problems with especially gender therapists, because their view of it is completely off. Completely. For your information, I used to have regular dysphoria prior to my detransition, and when I say regular dysphoria, which I would say a lot, I just mean being dysphoric about your natural sex characteristics stuff instead of the artificial ones. So I was never like a transgender who just jumped at testosterone haphazardly. I knew what I was doing taking it. I was just far more mentally fucked up than I ever could have conceived of back then. I was taken for a little bit of a surprise. Treating my issues made my regular dysphoria morph into reverse dysphoria instead of completely disappearing. I can only speculate as to why that happened, but it did. So because I have had both regular dysphoria and reverse dysphoria, you probably want to hear my opinion on this. I also have reasons to believe that experiencing reverse dysphoria is actually pretty rare among detransitioners, so that it's often portrayed as a universal detrans experience doesn't quite sit right with me. That is why I think it's an important topic to address, despite how joking I might be talking about it. I'm just trying to not bore you. This video isn't targeting any specific audience, although I'm more so directed at people who haven't detransitioned themselves. Because usually detransitioners probably already know all this shit. Kinda. But generally it's for anyone interested, as per usual with my videos. Small disclaimer, I don't intend to speak for any other detransitioners, nor am I claiming to know any real statistics on how common it actually is to have reverse dysphoria, or regular dysphoria for that matter, because there are no such statistics. There aren't any statistics on detransitioners at all, so don't expect anything. I'm talking about my own experience and perspective of myself, as well as what I think is probably most common among D-trans people in general, after having heard the experiences of a whole bunch of them, and having listened to them without judgment. I also talk of my own experiences of how trans people in general talk about detransitioners within the transgender community, which I was an active member of as a trans man for 9 whole years. That is an entire decade, minus 1 year. And of course I also talk of my own experiences of going back to the gender clinic as a D-trans woman and seeking reversal procedures for myself, including changing my legal sex marker back to female. So, please remember that everything I say here is generalizations and anecdotal information. And also keep in mind that I come from a gender critical standpoint. That should be enough disclaimers. So, reverse dysphoria. What is it? Is it real or is it a myth? Do all detransitioners have it? What is its relation to gender identity? I will address all those questions and more. In transgender spaces, I often come across the trope that all detransitioners get reverse dysphoria and that's why they regret transitioning. That they actually are cis and that they all identify as the gender of their biological sex upon detransitioning. That they then all would want to reverse their medical transitions to treat that reverse dysphoria. Very similarly to regular transition, just in reverse. How accurate is this depiction, do you think? Because I've heard it's quite inaccurate. Gotta have something to drink. Cheers. It's just Coke. So is it simply a myth then? Well, yes, but also not quite. Some detransitioners, like myself, do experience reverse dysphoria. However, it's not like that trope at all. Please try to remember it, though I won't repeat it. But even if it was, I'd much rather stand up for my own community than be the transgender community's poster girl for detransition. I don't want to spread misinformation about what it's actually like to detransition, just because my own experience aligns somewhat well with the transgender community, with what the transgender community want for detransitioners to be like. I do not agree with the terms and conditions. Why do they all want us to fit that trope? Because it will support their ideal image of gender dysphoria as always treatable by transition and always determining of gender identity. Perhaps I should explain to you exactly what reverse dysphoria is before I continue. Essentially, it is a mental discomfort with the traits that you got from your medical transition, which may make you appear more or less like the opposite sex. It is being uncomfortable with looking and or sounding like a man if you're a biologically female person and took testosterone and or had some masculinizing surgery. It is being uncomfortable with being thought of or read as a member of the opposite sex due to the physical changes of your medical transition. It is a deep wish to look more clearly like a member of your own biological sex. As far as I know, reverse dysphoria as a concept can only be experienced by someone who has undergone a medical gender transition. If you think about that more in depth, it's not really gender dysphoria, because you can't literally be more or less of your own biological sex. You just either are of that sex or you are not. Because the reality is that medical gender transition cannot literally change your biological sex, only the superficial appearance of your sex. I don't know what exactly makes reverse dysphoria happen for some but not for others, or if there's anything logical about it at all. What I can do, however, is to tell you how I personally experience reverse dysphoria and share my limp attempts at rationalizing it for myself. I believe that my own reverse dysphoria comes from that I now connect emotionally to being female, and that I know it's not natural for me to appear male. And that causes kind of a clash of feeling one way but then looking completely different. One of the ways that I now choose to embrace my femaleness is by letting myself and the world around me see that I really am female, and that my biological sex is not a dirty secret anymore, and nor should it ever have been, and by attempting to restore the female parts and traits that I once used to have. I choose to see my new reconstructed breasts, once I get them, my new feminized voice, etc. as spare parts. How I see myself, like a 10 years older version of my pre-transition self, clashes with what I actually look like, now, transitioned. As I subconsciously think of myself as a woman, and very happily so, but to then see in the mirror what to me appears like almost a man, but more like a broken woman, upsets me. The more I can make myself appear like I did pre-transition, the more harmonic I feel about my body. That is essentially what I consider to be my reverse dysphoria. It is not uncommon for women who had to undergo mastectomy due to breast cancer to feel a certain loss of sense of self and to feel discomfort with their bodies. After having listened to women in such a situation, I can relate to how they feel. They are not experiencing gender dysphoria per se, but as I too have lost my breasts, I believe that is probably very close to what I personally interpret as reverse dysphoria specifically. Then what is gender dysphoria, for comparison? Scratching my jaw, sorry about that. Then what is gender dysphoria, for comparison? Essentially, I'd say it's a mental discomfort with your body's sex characteristics and wishing that you had that of the opposite sex instead. It's feeling mental discomfort with being thought of and treated as a member of your biological sex, and wishing to be thought of and treated as a member of the opposite sex instead. Now some people may have a slightly different definition of it than I do, but I'd say it's a decent enough general description, and at least it fits my experience of it in the past. Then reverse dysphoria kind of falsely mirrors actual gender dysphoria. The big difference is that someone with reverse dysphoria doesn't wish to become something that he or she is not. The wish is simply to appear more clearly like what you already are. However, my own gender therapists, yes, 2 of them, do not understand that a detransitioned woman with reverse dysphoria already knows that she is a woman by default, regardless of if she looks like it or not. And this will be the end of the first part. This is only going to be 2 parts, so that shouldn't be too much of it for you to keep track of. Link to the second part will be in the description to make it as easy as I possibly can for my viewers. And so see you in the second part, I hope.